was a kid and when I didn't really have anything else to do, I used to fire up MS Paint and get to drawing things on wheels. I came up with my own manufacturer names and made some interesting designs with some gigantic rear wings. I also came up with my own UI and box art for games that never really existed. Fast forward to now, 20 something years later, and I'm making 3D models for a racing game that I've been making myself. The game I've been working on is called 6th Street Racer, and it's my attempt at trying to recapture the feeling of the 2000s racing games. You know the ones. It features a small open world, car customization, and NPC interactions. You can attend car meets or go to hangout spots and talk with the local racers. If you gain their respect, you can get them to join your crew. Don't fancy making friends? You can make rivals instead. Each pathway will have their benefits, and it's up to you to decide who you want on your side. The ultimate goal of the game is to get to the top of the 6 standings. Win races, and you'll gain points to rise up the rankings. The thing is, each event and interaction passes the in-game time a certain amount of hours, and you only have a few hours each night. The standings also change regardless if you race or not. So the choice is yours. Do you take the day off and work on your car, or do you continue the grind to get to the top? So how do I actually get to this point? Well, we'll need to go back to August 2024. After taking part and successfully finishing a game for the 2024 GMTK Game Jam, I decided it was time to start working on a bigger project. I already had a couple ideas floating in my head, and the competition was fierce. I had ideas for a turn-based football game, a restaurant management game, or a music festival management game. Funnily enough, I worked on all 3 of these projects before I ran out of steam. And speaking of Steam, wishlist a game on Steam, yo! A couple months after the jam, I also moved house. I'm pretty sure new surroundings also helped me to come up with new ideas. In between, I was watching all kinds of racing game content, trying to figure out what people really wanted. I'm not really sure if working on a racing game was the ideal starting project for Unity, but I figured I should just throw caution to the wind. So I officially started the project on September 18th. I created a new Unity project and imported a car model I made a few days before. Then I started following a car controller tutorial series by the new sys development. By the end of the day, I didn't have anything special yet, but this gave me the perfect starting point to figure out how I wanted to make the game. In particular, I was really stressed out about the map design. I wasn't really familiar with using Blender to make environments yet, so this was my first real shot at making environments completely in Blender. A few weeks later, I was already making some pretty significant progress. I first made a tiny portion of the map to nail down my workflow and to see if everything looked right on the Unity side. This was really where I started dialing in how I wanted the car controller and how I really wanted the map to look like. Once I was happy with my workflow, I started drawing out the complete map. I used Inkscape to draw out the complete map. Then I exported it as an SVG file. Blender allows you to import SVG files, so I imported everything into Blender. Then I just started extruding and offsetting, filling out the road portions, etc. It took a while, but it was so exciting to see the map laid out in Blender. Even though it was really tough at first, I've grown to really like and enjoy the map making process. I imported the initial map to Unity and drove around to see if I actually enjoyed the flow of it, but I felt it was a little too small, so I expanded it in all directions. At this point in the project, I was still a little uncomfortable with C#. So as a challenge to myself, I try to figure out how to code a traffic system from scratch. I was able to come up with a lane-based concept, and I even had functioning traffic lights, junctions, and a spawn and despawn system. I couldn't figure out how to make the cars properly brake in time though. Regardless, I actually learned a lot from this small coding project. The current version of the game also doesn't use this traffic system. I actually ended up buying a package for that, but I felt way more confident to start programming some of the essential scripts for the game. By the end of October, I grew kind of tired working on my own car controller, and I figured I was wasting a lot of time trying to reinvent the wheel, literally. So I bit the bullet and bought my first paid asset on the Unity Asset Store. And things were a lot more smooth sailing with Boldcracker Games' realistic car controller package, which I've since customized to fit my needs. The next couple of months flew by as I continued to make essential systems for the game, like the minimap, the rear view camera, and the all-important race mode. We all know the race mode of a racing game is the most important part of a racing game, right? This took tons of thinking and head scratching, and I couldn't really find much help about this. Of course, Nanusis makes an awesome tutorial on it months after I made my own, but I'm happy with the system I came up with. On the topic of art style, I knew it was definitely not possible to make hyper-realistic graphics all by myself. I also wanted the game to be simple enough to run on all kinds of machines. So I decided to go with a stylized art style inspired by the likes of Automodelista and Need for Speed Unbound. The environment you see here is definitely not final, but I do like the general style and vibe. I'll just be adding a lot more detail to the buildings, the roads, the decoration items, etc. And these awesome character portraits seen in the game were drawn by my good friend Vishnu. He's been hard at work drawing these characters in between his studies, as well as using a really old laptop. So please do give him some compliments in the comments. As for the soundtrack, I've been making the music for the game using an iPhone app called Oxy, as well as FL Studio. I've only completed a few, but I have tons of tracks in progress. Music production has always been something I'm passionate about, and hopefully the soundtrack reflects that. The soundtrack spans multiple genres from high-intensity drum and bass, jungle, and garage tracks for the racing, to hip-hop, trap, ambient, and lounge tracks for the menus. I've also taken some very obvious inspirations from tons of racing games, so I hope you'll be able to find them as well. I've also been keeping track of how much time I've been spending on the project ever since the first development session. I'm well past 1,000 hours as of recording. I'm averaging about 2 hours of work daily and have only taken 7 days off the past year where I didn't work on the game. My days vary between a couple hours a day to 8 or 9 hour work sessions. Even if I don't work in the game, I'm always thinking about the project. I'm always watching YouTube videos of old racing games, constantly playing racing games, trying to figure out what makes them tick. I expect to work even more on year 2 as I devote all my focus onto the game. If this project has piqued your interest, I would really appreciate if you could wishlist the game on Steam. It would really help out. Thank you so much in advance. If you would like to follow the game's development, you can do so by following at 6th Street Racer on Twitter or X, and the Extra Notion profiles on Instagram and Threads. You can also join the Discord where I post frequent updates, teasers, etc. You'll also be able to talk directly with me if you have any inquiries, as well as watch development streams if I host them. Going forward, I plan to just focus on development and not make frequent devlogs, but I will make them if there are any significant updates to the project. Thank you so much for watching. I have been Ashwin from Extra Notion.